I do just set one part and feature Tony on the guitar. Listen to this. How old are you, Tony? I hate you. No, just listen to me. That's fantastic, man. Woo! How excited.
You know the name Tom Bones Malone? Tom Malone?
No.
Well, yeah, he's one of the chief arrangers, and he's a trombone player, but he's a multi-instrumentalist. And he was with the Blues Brothers. He's one of the Blues Brothers in the Blues Brothers band, Tom Bones Malone. So perhaps you heard of him from that. But early on, Tom discovered me, so to speak, at a rehearsal. I was rehearsing with a band on Long Island. Tom happened to bop in, and he says, "Hey, man, would you like to do some studio work?" So I was around age 19 at that point, 18 or 19. I don't remember, maybe 18. And I said, "Sure." So we started doing some things for like Mongo Jerry, things like that. And then Tom said to me, "Hey, a friend of mine, Jeff Sturgis, in Vegas is conducting for Tom Jones, which I don't know if you want to go to Vegas." But I wanted to get out. I wanted to escape because my parents are very strict. They didn't want me to be a musician. They wanted me in the usual doctor or lawyer bit. You can't blame them. They didn't know. And, of course, I had the long hair, and I was a rebel, right? So I took a gig with Tom Jones to run away from home.
How was it working with Tom Jones?
Well, it was great. I was only there for the one engagement at Caesar's Palace, but I recorded on his live album with him. I got to work alongside Big Jim Sullivan. We became good friends and became friends later on until recently he passed away. But here's an interesting story. Tom Jones had a TV show back in those days around circa 1969. And I would watch it sometimes. But one time I'm walking by this TV set, Tom Jones doing his thing, and some premonition hit me. Now this is going to sound like woo-woo-woo to you, but it's true, so I'm going to lay it on you. I had a premonition, man, that I would be working with him. It just came out of nowhere. Wow. I don't know where this thought came from. It wasn't intentional. I didn't invent the thought. And particularly want to work for Tom Jones. I was into something, music, a little more esoteric, a little more creative, so to speak, than that. But about 6 months later, this happened. I got a call to go with Tom Jones. Boom, right to Las Vegas. Now here's the deal with the premonition story. The premonition stuff didn't stop. It was like a whole. You ever go fishing, man, and you're in the little boat there, and all of a sudden you catch a lot of fish, man, that happen to be right there. That's how the premonitions were. Mm-hmm. It was like I got the right spot where all the premonition fishes came out. So we're at Caesar's Palace, and after the gig, curtains down, everything's dark, but we have my guitar, I'm up on the rafters, and I got to get my stuff. So I'm one of the last guys off the rafters. I don't know, I forget the word I'm looking for. Like bleachers, whatever. And I get off there, and I'm walking backstage, and the curtain is like right here. And all of a sudden, that's the opening in the curtain. It opens up, and right in my face is Elvis Presley.
Wow.
And I go, whoa. And he goes, whoa. Like he does, like he used to do, right? And he goes, "You guys are great." I go, "Thank you." I split, But I had a premonition at that moment. Believe it or not, I'm not making this up. I don't know what to tell you, that I would be working with Presley.
Wow.
And that was at 71. By 74, I was not only working with Presley, but I was featured in his show. So that's pretty weird stuff going on there. But in the interim, I went with a great band. After the Tom Jones engagement ended, I went with Wayne Cochran and the CC Riders. And I don't know if you knew Wayne Cochran.
No.
You should investigate that. He was a great R&B singer, man, kind of like a white James Brown. I think that's what they actually called him. And it was me, no piano, it was just guitar, bass, and drums. So I had to carry the whole rhythm with 11 horns. And it was a real schooling for me. It really, really educated me because we did some jazz charts to open up the gig, and then Wayne came out, and I really got my rhythm playing together. And it's something I don't regret that I did that. It was hard. It was 10 months approximately on the road, one-nighters, man. You know, you're in Oklahoma one night, you're in Florida the next night. The bus was grueling. I was 22, 21, 22 years old. It was hard. I could never do anything like that now. Forget it.
Mhm.
But and then after Wayne Cochran, and I hope I'm not babbling on too much, I went with one of the first fusion groups, really. They just didn't call it fusion in those days. They called it jazz rock. I went with Chase, Bill Chase, who was a famous lead trumpet player, and he was signed with Columbia Records. Um, Thank God I had a falling out with Chase after about 4 months. We didn't agree on certain things with the band, the rhythm section, and I quit. And only a few months after that, he died with some of the guys in the rhythm section in an airplane
Oh,
crash.
goodness.
So you tell me what we got premonitions and near misses. It's the story of my life.
Hey, what was Vegas like in those days?
Well, it was like, you just ever see the movie Casino with Robert De Niro?
Yeah.
It was like that. It was
Yeah.
like that. Of course, I didn't encounter any mafia, although I did work for Paul Anka at one point. And we went, and these guys sure. We went to. We had to go through the Italian restaurant. We went in through the kitchen, and there was some guys eating in the kitchen, and they looked like mafia to me, but they were friends with Paul. I don't know. I don't know for sure. I don't know for sure.
Hey, so were you an Elvis fan?
I was, because this is something else. Which, if we really backtrack, around fourth grade, I was pretty young. I don't know, 9. I didn't really get serious until I was 13. But I used to go with my guitar, show and tell, and sing Hound Dog. Sing Hound Dog, man.
Uh-huh.
So, and I remember being age 9 or 10, and I was down in the basement, and we had a Victrola in those days, and records, and I used to put on Elvis Presley records for some reason, and he was already passé, and this was around 1960. He was kind of passé. My father came down and he said, "What are you listening to him for? He's washed up." I said, "I don't care. I like his music." And it's kind of interesting, right? It's kind of interesting that I was an Elvis fan early on when it was more popular to be. I don't think this is pre Beatles, actually, 1960s pre Beatles. You had that lull. There was a lax in the music. Whenever in those days, when there was no fad that came out specifically. The popularity would revert to Motown, always go back to Motown or country music, either one. That's what happened in those days, which was interesting. So,
So how did you end up in the Joe Gurcio Orchestra?
hmm, well, it's a long time ago, so I don't know exact specific details and all these nuances, but somebody heard, oh, right, somebody hooked me up with Ron Foyer, the great piano player, and Ron was like an older brother for me. He really helped me out a lot,
Hmm.
and I. But it was before Ron was actually a great drummer by the name of Santos Savino, who gave me a shot at the Sahara Hotel, and I played behind. I think it was a famous singer, Diane Carroll, and Mel Torme,
Yeah.
and But it is Ron, and so I was working with Ron. We had like a jazz fusion band. We were playing some very interesting music, kind of very difficult music too. Santo played drums, and then Ron took a shot. He didn't want to. Ron doesn't like to really recommend people unless he knows they can really. He wasn't sure I could do that kind of work because I was young.
Mm. Did you
But
and Joe? I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
he introduced me to Joe Gurcio, and so Joe, they started me at the Flamingo Hilton, which was like, that's what they do with guys. You do your little way station at the Flamingo Hilton. And then Jimmy Moldo, who's the contractor, the gig ended. I think it was 1 or 2 gigs at the Flamingo that ended. And I said, listen, Jack English wants to hire me over at the Sahara because they liked my work. I was going to get steady work, reasonably steady. The Sahara didn't have absolute steady work, but it had enough. So I said, listen, what do you want to do? Because I'm going to go. He says, no, no, we like your work. We want to hire you at the Hilton. So it was a big thrill for me, man. It was
Yeah.
like around 24 actually when I started at the Hilton.
Mm.
And so, I didn't go to any music college. I mean, my parents talked me out of going to music college. Everything I had to learn was bare knuckles. Whatever I didn't know, I would go to Los Angeles and study with some big maestros. I had to get my sight reading together. And so I did my homework that way. I had the gig first,
Mm-hmm.
and I used a lot of street smarts and put it all together, and you have me.
Now, the Joe Gurcio band played in back of a lot of people. They didn't just play in back of Elvis. So you played in back of a lot of people.
Myriad, myriad. I forgot all the people I played behind. And not only that, diverse. You have Elvis and you have Anne Margaret. And Anne Margaret was great because she had some great charts arranged by the likes of Don Costa, who did a lot of Sinatra's work, charts. He was known for his string parts, string writing. And Billy Byers. Now, these are two great, great arrangers. And Billy Byers used to ghost write for Quincy Jones when Quincy had that operation. Not too many people know that.
Mm-hmm. So
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I just want to say one thing.
Okay.
So it was a challenge. It was a challenge to do good, and so I was always on my toes. It was very stressful, but I think I became a good musician because of those gigs.
I'm sure. How was it? Can you remember the first time playing in back of Elvis?
Yeah, it was pretty spectacular because Elvis himself had a lot of charisma, and the actual production was charismatic. Because you have gospel singers, and if you ever gone to one of those churches and you hear them singing Negroes, you used to call them Negroes spirituals in those days, it's got a lot of charisma in itself. So he had all this charismatic mechanisms working simultaneously. And to tell you the truth, the music was not difficult, because not too difficult to play Elvis' stuff, but it had more charisma than any other show I had encountered.
Mm-hmm. Now, a question to ask you. Now, you're playing in back of the TCB band.
Yeah.
James Burton is playing lead. John Wilkinson's playing rhythm. What do you, as the guitarist in the Joe Gurcio Orchestra, what do you play?
Well, I'm playing rhythm essentially, but I'm reading the charts. I'm playing. Every once in a while there'll be something to double with a horn line or a string line, but basically background is subdued with all the other people.
Right. Now, did you re-meet Elvis? I mean, when you got into the Joe Gurcio band, did you re-meet Elvis again?
Well, the only time I met Elvis was when he decided to give me a guitar solo. It was after that, not too long after that, Elvis. I went up to hang out a little bit with James Burton. I just felt like going before the show.
Right.
About a few minutes before the show, really. I went down there to say hello, and I think Elvis wanted to actually meet me. I have a lot of reasons for that, to say that. And he came out. He came out. He never came out before his curtain went up. He came out, and I saw him walking around me, and then I turned around. He looked at me, and I go, "Whoa, same thing, man. Whoa." He goes, "Whoa." He says, I love you playing.
Cool.
And so that would be that time and the time on stage where he talked to me in front of all those people.
Right. How was it working along with the TCB band?
Well, once again, it's inconsequential. I mean, I love the guys. We were behind them. So when you say this, you have to understand that I'm in an orchestra.
Right.
We're in an orchestra behind his band. So the real thing is, how did I like the gig? I liked the overall gig. I really did. When he gave me solos, it was a thrill. It's a thrill when Elvis wanted to play a little game with introducing me. He would pretend he was the conductor.
Right.
So he would say, you play, and then hey, I played with the orchestra. It was rock and roll or blues. It was really blues. And then he cut the orchestra off and just had me play with his band, and then cut his band, and then I'm playing a cappella. I said, man, if I had 1 second to think about what I was doing there, I would froze. But I just threw caution to the wind and just played.
Right.
And so it worked out okay.
Can you tell us from the first time that Elvis called on you to do a guitar solo?
Well, okay, so you were doing things a little bit out of
I'm
order. No,
sorry.
no, no problem. It's such a long time ago. Yeah. It was something like something like a feel like that, you know. And I really can't demonstrate on this guitar because these are very thick strings. They're like tree trunks, and you can't bend them. But you know, it's something like you know, thing, that kind of a thing. And the conductor would point at me to play, and I start playing my stuff, you know. And then Elvis heard that, and
Put
he
your
didn't say,
put your camera up so I can see your face.
"Oh, sorry."
That's
And
it.
so I love the guitar so much, I want the world to see it. Anyway, he didn't say anything at that point, but what happened was happening is every stuff started happening. You know, Red West, you know, his bodyguard, the main bodyguard, Red West, come up to me out of nowhere and he say, you know, Elvis really loves you playing. Oh, thank you. I didn't know what that meant, but it started to mean stuff when other people were telling me, his bass player, who it was before Jerry Sheff at that point, it was another, I can't remember his name, but he's a bass player on the picture that I'm
Oh,
used to.
Duke.
Duke, it was Duke.
Yeah.
He was with him a short time, and then there was Jerry Sheff.
Right.
But he says Elvis really digs your playing. I'm hearing this like crazy, you know. And I don't know if it was John came up to me, maybe I'm not sure. But the funniest thing was this. This is when it started to get like, whoa. We used to hang, Marty Harrell and I and a couple of other guys in the band used to hang at a restaurant called the Starboard Tack after the gig. Starboard Tack, I think, was open damn near 24 hours, you know. So I'm having, we have like late night food, beer or whatever we're drinking. And the waiter, the waiter comes up to me, you're Tony di Caprio, right? I said, yeah. He says, well, you know, he says, Elvis really loves your playing. I go, what the hell? You know, this is like a movie or something, right? It's like a screenplay, all this. I go, what, how do you know this? And how do you know my name? He says, because I'm dating Joe Esposito's ex-wife.
Jeez.
So apparently Joe and his ex-wife were obviously in friendly terms, and maybe perhaps his, I don't know. And so he said to me this. He says, I don't know if you know this, but Elvis wants to take you on tour with him to be part of the TCB band. I said, oh, okay. That's all I heard of that. And Elvis continued to give me solos, and I was never asked, though, so I don't know what happened with that. I was kind of disappointed because even though I enjoyed playing diverse music and a challenge, I thought it would be kind of interesting to work with Elvis and like that, you know, as a further extension of the history of the situation, so to speak. I was a little disappointed, but I had a feeling that perhaps one or two of the band members didn't want an addition to the band. That's the only thing I can come up with.
Right. Was there other people that were asked to do solos, Tony?
Yeah, on occasion. There was James Moody, the great jazz tenor player, passed away about maybe a year ago or something. And conga player, Alex Acuna. Alex Acuna played. Alex is a great drummer, and he went on to work with Weather Report, Lee Ritenour, a whole bunch of people, Elton Road, and he did a lot of movie dates. So us three, basically.
Did that ever cause any problems with other musicians inside the orchestra that you were called on to do solos and they weren't, or not that you know of?
None that I know of, and I don't think any. It would have been not appropriate because I don't think any of the musicians could have fit in to play in that kind of a pocket in that little blues thing. It would. So, and I don't think anybody minded.
Yeah. How was it working with Joe Gurcio?
Well, it was hot and cold because Joe was very tough to work with. But actually, it's like, you know, it's almost like a strict father. In fact, he used to call me his illegitimate son. I had like a love-hate relationship with Joe, and but you know, a lot of times when us human beings look back at things that perhaps were not so comforting, you look back and if you analyze it a little harder, a little closer, you can find some good. Joe kept me on my toes. I had to go the extra mile, and I don't think he dug the idea that I got, you know, the spotlight, because I think personally he liked to get the spotlight only. He made a mistake of calling me to play, I think. But essentially, Joe was like a strict disciplinarian, and I came out pretty good.
Did you ever have any one-on-ones conversations with Elvis?
No, just that one when we were talking a little bit. As far as any kind of extensive conversation, no, because Elvis was well guarded. I have to tell you, he was obviously high most of the time, you know.
Mm-hmm. Did
So,
go ahead.
go ahead. No, go ahead.
Uh, so did you ever hang around with any of the Memphis Mafia guys, or
No, that's
do you remember any funny stories that happened during the Elvis shows?
there might have been some funny stories, but I forgot. It didn't involve me, so I probably forgot. Yeah, there was a quasi dark funny story that happened one night where somebody was spreading rumors around that Elvis was taking drugs. Everybody knew he was taking drugs, okay? I mean, you know, I'd be naive. It'd be like a Walt Disney movie if I didn't tell you he was, you know, he was taking drugs. And I guess it got back to Elvis, and he freaked out.
You were there for that.
Yeah, man, I was there, and
Wow.
he freaked out, and yelled. I saw a side of Elvis I never saw before, man. I thought he was gonna like have a nervous breakdown. He was.
Isn't that the one where he said he was going to cut somebody's tongue out? And
There you go, rip somebody's tongue out by the roots.
that's it.
Something
Yeah.
like that.
Desert Storm, they call that. Desert Storm.
He got really pissed off, and yeah, that's the only time if you want to, you know, interesting thing happened. I think, you know, of course, it was sad to play him also when he gained all that weight.
Right. Did how long did you play for Elvis?
Probably to '74 until he died, I would say.
Okay. Uh, did you ever have any dealings with Colonel Parker or no?
I never met Colonel Parker. I don't think. I don't think I ever met him. I mean, maybe he saw me. Maybe I walked by him, but I never had any dealings with him. No.
How did you hear How did you hear that Elvis had passed away?
I don't recall when I heard. I think I was on the gig and somebody told me. I think it's too long ago. But I have to tell you something that's also premonition.
Okay.
Not that I'm a clairvoyant in any way, shape, or form.
Are you sure?
I'm not sure. So, but you know, I got this. I was real close, like this. You know, one night passing him, he was backstage, and I had to pass him to get onto the stage. And he really looked stoned, brother. His eyes. And I said to one of the guys in the band, I go, I won't be surprised if he's dead pretty soon. 6 months later, he was dead.
Wow. What do you think of the everlasting popularity of Elvis Presley?
Well, I think it's fantastic. I think human beings need that, and just like Marilyn Monroe and maybe Marlon Brando to a certain extent, and Genghis Khan, John Kennedy. You know, it's listen. He was the first real rock and roll dude. I mean, you had Bill Haley and all that stuff, but come on, he was very special. You know, the Beatles worshipped him, and the Beatles were a phenomenon, unparalleled, really. He just had a humongous charisma, and he probably made a lot of people happy early on.
Were you ever asked to do the Elvis in concert? You know, with Elvis on the video screen?
No, I wasn't. I'll tell you the truth, I was kind of disappointed because I was there. You know, I was there with Elvis and those guys, and I could have didn't mind playing second fiddle to James, who's a great player. And maybe I would get a solo too, who knows? But no, I don't know why I wasn't called. It's a mystery to me.
Well, you weren't the only one. John Wilkerson was never asked either, and I knew it bothered him.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything that you'd want to say to the people that are listening to this interview?
Well, treat me like a fool. No, you know, it's kind of, you know what? It's very good to hang on to something. I mean, it's not like you're hanging on to the past. You know, it's good to believe and remember something. You know, he was an icon, and he had a lot of charisma. He made a lot of people happy, and you know, if he still makes people happy, I don't see anything wrong with that because I think the world is pretty screwed up now. We don't know what's what, what's up, what's down. The idea that the whole premise of music has changed. It's not the same as when you know we were younger. And we can't really put it down because it's a different head. You know, I mean, our parents are probably putting us down for the head that we were in. So I think it's good. It's good to have certain kind of memorabilia, and I think it's healthy. You know, Elvis. There'll never be another Elvis. I don't think.
Well, thank you, Tony. That's Tony di Caprio. I'm Joe Krein, and this is Elvis Online.